We are now going to demonstrate the ClearPriority Operational Intelligence Platform. Not going greatly into technical detail, but showing you a genuine example of a monitoring application. We will start with the supervisory console, where the user can gain insight into all aspects of the operational intelligence monitoring activity. The application is web-based, and so it is easily accessed from desktop or mobile devices. So I'm starting now with the alerting dashboard of the console, where the user can see the alerts that are made visible after events have been collected from the system and correlated for alerts by the operational intelligence engine. These alerts are showing the actual and historic activity monitored in a private banking order processing system. The user has a complete panoramic view of the whole list of alerts produced by the system. Alerts that vary from high to low importance, allowing the user to focus their attention on what's really important and must be responded to with the highest priority. Of course, alerts can be grouped together so that you get a quick overview of what's really important. That's what we see on the lower part of this screen. Alerts also have an origin value that shows where the alert originates from, like a subsystem, for example. Here it is in the order processing broker. And on the top of the screen, we have another view of the distribution of the alerts by time, and we can see that we have around 5 alerts that still have to be processed at midnight on the 13th of September in 2012. We can also have other views where we change the timescales, e.g. by month, to have an alternative view on the number of alerts that have been detected. In this particular example about the order processing monitoring, we are most interested in orders that haven't been processed as expected. There may be a service level agreement that's been agreed between several parties, such as the end customer, the bank, and the market, which in this case is a third-party broker. For instance, here we have an alert for a blocked order that has been transmitted to a broker, but the broker has not yet acknowledged it. This might mean that the bank is liable to pay a penalty to the customer if the transaction is delayed, such that today's price quotation cannot be respected. Another aspect of the supervisory console is the ability to manage the alerts that have been produced by the system. For example, I can just click on my Manage Alerts button. For example, I can just go in and note here that I'm starting some manual intervention on a specific subsystem to resolve some issue. We mark the alert as being open so that later on someone in my team can come back and continue fixing this particular problem. When I'm looking at the alert details, I can see a whole load of other information that enables me to better understand that alert. I was typing a subsystem number identifier here, showing where I would need to go to fix that particular problem. That information is gathered from various events that have been correlated together to show that some problem exists in the order processing system. So here I have the alert name and the system date and business time when this problem was seen. Later on, I can come back to my alert management and make a note that I've finished processing my manual intervention and then mark the situation as closed and that my order has now been processed correctly. Of course, for another processing system where you have many orders per hour, it's not really suitable to do it all manually. Therefore, you can configure ClearPriority to automatically close alerts by itself when appropriate. So, for example, where we have an order that was blocked, we can often see that there were following events that ClearPriority detected and that enabled the system to fix the problem without intervention, without manual intervention. Perhaps there was a temporary overload of the system, for example, but it was finally processed as expected, and so there was a slight delay, but ClearPriority was able to automatically close the alert by itself, and so a risky situation has now disappeared. Of course, you can also have details on these same types of alerts about where those alerts are coming from and if they are happening regularly. For example, here we have the same origin, so it's quite likely that that order has a similar problem to the last one. So I was talking about views on the alerting produced. What is also interesting is that you can have customized views so that and put them into pages, so that here, for example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different pages. Those pages can be saved for later retrieval and organised according to what is really relevant to focus on for the end users. Here I would like to have a view that is targeted more towards the underlying subsystems, whereas here I want to have a view that is focused only on the order processing itself, which in this case is the main business concern. Also, the ClearPriority platform offers indicators that are values computed by the monitoring system. And here I have a graph showing me that the average processing duration of a specific subsystem is that amount of time, and I can see the set of values that have been calculated along my timeline. If I click on different indicators, the other graphs are then updated. I can show more interesting graphs that show specific areas of interest, such as here, where we are showing the length of time between 2 specific steps in the order processing workflow. We can see that on average we are something like 30 seconds, but we have some peaks increasing up to 90 to 100 seconds, and maybe even higher where we have something like 110. So we have thresholds that can be applied to these KXIs that trigger alerts. Another interesting graphical representation is the traffic lights. Here we have a traffic light with 3 indicators that are combined, and these traffic lights can be modified, for instance, to show what's important, and it works by summing together the values of various indicators. So the weakest one here is in orange, and these traffic lights might be configured to give us high-level indicators of the state of compliance, for example, of a given system or process, etc. Again, these indicators have views defined in pages which I can pre-configure and reload as required to give us some focused indicator pages. Also, we have many graph tags such that we can compare and overlay graphs. And for example, here I want to compare the indicator on the left with the time it took to process the orders. So this gives me considerable flexibility in how I represent and view the situations I want to monitor. We also have in the supervision console an event dashboard which allows us to retrieve and view a whole series of events that we have captured by the platform. For example, here I'm showing the events related to the mapping and loading of external data inside the order processing system. And I can see that there were many errors due to internet or systems failures that were causing us grief and failures that have detrimental impact, of course, on our business. In the case of the order processing system, we are most interested in monitoring the processing path of orders. And here we can see the several different states that each order passed through during that process. So let's focus on a specific order to show the drill down capacity and follow that order in more detail. So here I was selecting the order that was giving me the alert earlier on, and I can retrieve information on the various states that the order passed through and the times that these states occurred. ClearPriority is connected to data sources, and here we have several sources such as the order workflow data stream, and we can see the systems these are based on. And in case we get late events, we will be able to review them in that kind of screen. But a well-tuned system, by the way, doesn't have any late events. We also have the opportunity, although we don't see any here, to see information coming in that ClearPriority doesn't understand to be an event and therefore doesn't use. So we can make sure that whatever we are mapping is always being used and not missed. To administer the system, we have an administrative console. So let's connect to this web-based application. It permits the user to install and manage monitoring applications, like you see here with a listing of monitoring applications already installed. We can see, for instance, that on this platform we have the order monitoring application to show us the state of health of that system, and we can see when it was started and by whom. We can configure various parameters to suit the environment where the application will be used. So if the operational parameters need changing, we just have to modify them here without having to redesign or amend the actual monitoring application itself. We also have the capacity to clean or purge the event data, which needs to be done regularly because if thousands of events are collected, maybe even per second, it would be useful to clean up those that didn't trigger alerts. So rather than clutter up the database, the administrator can get some timeouts to remove information that isn't needed anymore. We can also configure some automatic alert closing policies so that if alerts are not managing in the timescale that is useful, they can either be escalated. So if an alert isn't dealt with quickly, it can be escalated, or it can be discarded silently if there's just too many or they're too low level importance to deal with. Also, this is useful when doing acceptance testing and applications testing. You can also specify external alerting rules so that, for example, for a specific alert, you can choose who should be alerted, maybe sending a message to their desktop or to social media even. We can also define the physical and logical source mappings here, so that data sources for a monitoring application can be linked to a logical source. So for example, here we can see that my order workflow monitoring application is linked to this specific logical source, and that's linked to a specific physical data source. It means that the application is totally transportable from one environment to another, just by remapping. Over here we also manage the permissions. So here we have someone who is supervisor for 4 monitoring applications, and you can select and deselect who can see which monitoring application. And so you can have the same platform used by multiple users for different purposes. Also, these types of parameter might be of interest because our platform is designed to be easy to integrate inside an enterprise environment. So you can configure the domains and names and the LDAC Active Directory settings, for example, as required. You can configure over here the communication with external systems. For example, ClearPriority might send an alert to an IT monitoring system and then await and listen for a response that would allow it to automatically close an alert once the external system has resolved the problem. And over here we have some of those parameters that can be cleansing and automatic closing parameters for the whole platform. So far then, what we've done is we've been through the supervisory console and the wide range of capabilities for monitoring and alerting abnormal events to ensure the correct processing of an order in our private banking order processing monitoring application. And that's the end of our demonstration.